Is Charles Manson the most famous victim of gaslighting in history? Probably, yes. For those that aren't familiar with Charles Manson's case, like me, I actually thought Manson was guilty until I majored in criminal justice and I did a report on him. And I realized there wasn't a single shred of evidence against him, and there was a whole lot of evidence, a whole lot, to exonerate him. But it was never really taken seriously on purpose. He was basically given a kangaroo court, locked up, given the death penalty, then it was commuted to life, etc. And he was made into the devil. He is basically Charles Manson, Hitler. These people are seen as the ultimate devils, okay? And what's funny is Charles Manson is put into the same camp as people like Richard Ramirez, who is a truly brutal, sadistic maniac. But was Charles Manson? No. But if you actually look at the interviews, you will see gaslighting. Or not even the interviews so much as the parole hearings. You will see gaslighting at its finest from the media and from the parole board. Some of it is, one of my favorites was, they consistently said that he didn't express remorse. That's not true. He consistently stated that if he were guilty, then some of the things were the oceans would not be enough tears. If the oceans were his tears, they would not be enough for the amount of remorse he would feel, but he didn't do anything. In a sense, what it was is he was not admitting guilt. He consistently did not admit guilt. His story was consistent from the beginning to his death. One of the only things that I think were modified is after he read Tex Watson's book. Tex Watson said that he did it because he thought that might be what Manson wanted him to do, but Manson did not tell him to do that. This is the important thing, and Tex Watson stated that he did not blame Manson, he did not think it was Manson, he took full responsibility for it, and that's the thing, is like, he actually did take full responsibility for it later in life. But if you look at the lines of questioning of the parole boards and things like that, they have decided that he is guilty before he had a defense. He had no chance. And every time he tries to say something, they already have decided it for him. They decided what the truth is before he can state what his truth is. So his perspective is automatically blacked out. This is very similar to gaslighting and the gangstalking type of thing and the smear campaign. The smear campaign and gaslighting are two things that are primarily followed Manson, if you follow the case. They are two things that followed him from the beginning all the way to the end of his life. This smear that he is somehow the devil incarnate, when really he's just some hillbilly that fell in with the wrong crowd. I mean, that's really what happened. I mean, he was a musician, and he was a hillbilly, and he had just gotten out of prison, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, if you really look at his side of the story, it's consistent from start to finish. If you look at the stories of other people involved, not so much. Or if it is consistent, they say, oh, it wasn't my fault. I was taken over, I was possessed by demons, or alcohol, or drugs, or rock music, or any number of different things. It's always somebody else's fault. Manson did not put the blame on other people that didn't do it. He just said that he didn't do it. And he consistently stated that. But his reality, the real reality, was quashed by the media and by the establishment and by the parole boards and by everybody. And we all Americans, and really the whole world, has been brainwashed into thinking this dude did something he didn't do. The thing that's interesting is he never killed anybody. But like I said, he's put into the same camp as people like Ted Bundy, Richard Ramirez, John Wayne Gacy, etc. All these really true, Jeffrey Dahmer, all these real serious, hardened murderers, these sick people. And he was just literally like a beatnik, man. He wasn't even like he said a million times, he wasn't a hippie. He was not a product of the 60s. So there's a lot going on there. Now, about his obsession with National Socialism and things like that, there were certain obsessions with National Socialism and racialism. There are things like that, but they made it out, and this is the thing, how are you going to be a hippie National Socialist cult leader? You know what I mean? There are contradictions in terms. And that's the thing, man. It's really wacky. But if you actually follow the links in the description, check them out. Definitely check out, obviously, read what gaslighting is. Read it. And then look, watch these parole hearings, watch these interviews, and look at how they handle him. It's not done in a way that's an honest discourse of communication. It's a way to shut him down. And if you're familiar with the mental health field and familiar with criminal justice and things like this is what they do. And the smear campaign about him was to basically have an effigy, basically. They turned him into an effigy, a symbol of everything that was wrong with the 60s. And he wasn't even from the 60s. He was in prison the whole time. And another thing that you have to understand about Manson, he never really had a chance to learn about the outside world. Okay, he was in prison. While other people were outside, his whole childhood was spent in prison. So he was spent understanding the rules of prison. In fact, Criminon, a lot of people try to associate him with Scientology. There isn't really a real association too much. But through Criminon, which helped him rehabilitate himself, as he said in one of the interviews, I learned everything I needed to learn the first time. Okay, so he was rehabilitated, more or less. And as he stated in his interview with Diane Sawyer, he didn't break any laws of man, and he didn't break any laws of God. Okay, that was truly what he said. And it's very interesting because, honestly, if he's not telling the truth, he is a very, very consistent liar compared to everyone else that lies. I mean, his lies must be the most consistent of all. In other words, in my opinion, there's no way he's not telling the truth. And that, along with the evidence, the fact that there is not really one shred of evidence to convict him and a whole pile of evidence to exonerate him, I think that this, my idea that he is the most famous victim of a organized gaslighting smear campaign is pretty much accurate. And that's all for this video. Watch the interviews, follow the links, yada yada yada.